Hi everyone, Journal 86 today. I'll read it in just a minute. Let me just set it up first. So 20 something years ago, maybe I'm like 19 years old, I'm a busboy at a restaurant. It's in downtown Salem, Oregon. It's called Da Vinci's. If you're a Salemian, a Salemite, it's right next door to the Elsinore Theater. If you're visiting, feel free to go. It's still there as I'm doing this. But that's where I learned, being a busboy there is where I learned what 86 means. I know how to count, but the verb, like 280, the infinitive, 286 someone, you eject them and prevent them from, re-entering and getting the menu and ordering more food. That's where I learned what that means. And then fast forward the world a couple of, decades and a few more years. And we get to today, and I'm writing Journal 86, and I can't think of a better topic to talk about than that, but it's digital equivalent, which just means block user, which is, I think, probably a more prominent infinitive these days, certainly in my life. So let me read today's journal. Journal 86, Saturday, September 21st, 2024. All trolls are hurting inside. Hi, everyone. I picked my brother up from the airport once. He had his daughter with him, Spug. I got out of the car, hugged each of them, and then said, "The child seat is a little finicky. You might have to jostle the buckle a bit. It's on the driver's side." He had been hunched over Spug, trying to jostle the buckle just right for maybe 20 seconds when a TSA employee saw me standing beside the parked car. I was talking to my brother at the time. "Try pressing the button first and then insert the buckle. See if that works." As my brother, continued jiggering the car seat, he remained hunched out of Mr. TSA's line of sight, which resulted in a "move along" being yelled in our direction in all caps. There might have been one other car there, so I didn't understand what the urgency was all about, but I kept my composure and politely explained that we were currently loading and we would move along the instant we were done. Mr. TSA was too far away to hear my explanation as I was speaking at a normal volume, but I was gesturing very clearly in American mime language, and my mouth was acting out the words with even more thespian flair. "I said move!" he yelled even louder, while stomping toward us, waving his tiny flashlight around like a set of nunchucks. "We'll go as soon as we're done loading," I nearly yelled, not angrily, but audibly, because he was illiterate in AML. "You're not loading! Go now!" "We're loading I began. "You're not!" he interrupted. "A child into a car seat," I finished. That's when the buckle clicked and my brother stood up, and the TSA employee saw him. And instead of apologizing, he stomped away, nunchucking his flashlight even harder. "That was weird," I said to my brother. Then I released a sigh as we got in the car, fastened our own seatbelt, and moved along. We spent most of the drive home talking about the encounter. Mr. TSA was obviously incorrect in his assumption that we were not loading. But it was only obvious from my vantage. From his position, the facts were invisible. There was no way he could have seen the truth, which is fine, unless he made hostile judgments from his ignorant vantage and berated others with his false sense of certainty, which is precisely what he did. Why? I don't know. Those facts are hidden from my own line of sight. But it's a reasonable assumption that Mr. TSA was hurting inside, because that is not a behavior that is compatible with a fulfilling life of self-respect and compassion for others. "I wonder if he behaves the same way online," I said to my brother as we drove past Sacramento. Then I elaborated, "Do you think he's one of those people who clicks the dislike button and leaves angry comments whenever he doesn't understand a situation?" This was all speculation, of course. The only thing I can be sure of is how a troll's aggression makes me feel. And the only thing I can control is how I respond. So how does it make me feel? Sorry for them. Homo neanderthalensis is a barbarous bridge-dwelling hominid that aspires to be an apex predator, but it lacks the cognitive capacity to actualize those aspirations. Its only real accomplishment is harassment of Homo sapiens who traverse the internet's bridges. This behavior is believed to be a consequence of underdeveloped emotional intelligence. As brutish as it is, sorrow is my only sentiment. Now, how do I respond to the harassment? The same way I respond to weeds in my garden. If I let them be or bat them around, they'll quickly spread their seeds. I read that badly, and my yard will grow ugly. So with a click of the block user button, I pull those weeds up by the roots and toss them in the yard debris bin. And then I release a sympathetic sigh, the same one that followed my encounter with Mr. TSA. Because it's sad that Homo neanderthalensis, the whole species, never learned to plant flowers, only to sow weeds, which means the record of their life is fated to die as compost. Me. All right, that's it. I do think it's worth acknowledging that there's a difference. I'm giving myself one page for these little journals, but there's a difference between academic discourse, debate, right, and like a trollduggery. And I know this difference well. I mean, I'm a professor. That's what I do for a living. And in the classroom and in discussions with colleagues and around campus, I mean, I invite contradiction, differences of opinion and position and perspective and debate of that. And like in the classroom, I more than encourage and like I assign points. I mean, I urge it, rewarding students with points who do it, depending on what class we're talking about. And so I know this difference, again, between healthy, I think probably like the most enjoyable academic exercise for me, like in the classroom and around, discussions with other faculty members, is you take a sort of a superficial, basic topic and you just start plunging it, and you just keep plunging and seeing what comes up from the depths and sort of encountering these disparities, these differences with our belief systems and our worldviews and working through them. And those sorts of deep dives I cherish in an academic setting, but there's a difference between that and like bitter troll posts. The latter is just, it's like a form of graffiti. And I prefer to just clean graffiti rather than like get out my own can of spray paint and like try to get a dialogue, going on. Like that seems like unproductive to me. I would rather spend my calories, my attention in more productive pursuits. And then leaving it there doesn't seem good. I mean, that's just ugly. It's like hideous. And so I think we should all, it doesn't contribute to anyone's well-being. So I think we should all do our part, both in like this life, in like a digital, this, and in that life, right, in like the real world, to make everything more aligned with the vision of Mr. Rogers. And if what we're posting, what we're saying, what we're contributing is counteracting, a Mr. Rogers vision, maybe we should inwardly aim our, reflection and sort of judge ourselves a little bit more harshly. But that's it. That's it for today. And I hope, again, this and that world is filled with compassion and it's a healthy contradiction that can lead to, like constructive contradiction that can lead to a better, sort of like self-betterment and improvement of our own understanding. Okay.